Peace, peace, everyone. Hopefully, you can all hear me and see me. Just send a quick sound in the chat if you can. I'm just doing a last minute share. I forgot to share it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so peace, peace, peace. Shabbat shalom. Here we are again. Once again, hopefully, you're all doing well. You had a good day, a good strong. Um, you got a lot accomplished over your 6 day journey, and now here we are. Moving into our day of rest. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I kind of I've been building on this topic for a while, and I'm kind of interested to see where it goes as we all build together. But for the time being, definitely want to open up the space, give thanks to the Most High Yah, and of course, give thanks to our Chief Jegna and coordinator, Chief Yuya, for putting this thing together. you know, um, yeah. So I'm gonna get into it. There's a few things I wanted to discuss with you all, or maybe review with you all based on what we do by now. What happened this strong. So one of the things um, that came to mind was actually a segment that Chief did last strong, which was Devils. That was the title of the podcast on Chief Yuya podcast. Peace, brother Rami. Peace to you. Yeah, man. So that made me really think of what he was speaking about in that segment was basically the energy of a devil, the misconceptions that we have about devils, and what they look like, how they manifest, how they behave, who they could be, because we have this thing in our minds of like the cover image, the thumbnail image for this segment. You see someone with a bald head, horns, and a tail with like a triangle on it. And Chief did I wouldn't say a breakdown per se. It wasn't the title. It wasn't what the segment was about. But he had touched on that whole mythology, or that symbol that we're given of a devil, or of the devil. The is also significant because it makes you think that not only is there only one, but the is like a deifying um, it's a deifying term, like you even have it in the beginning of most deific terms like theocracy or yeah, theocracy is a good one. Like theo, you have that theo there that means God. Peace, everyone. I see everyone piling in. Well, good thing. Good to see you all. Glad you all made it in safe, and hopefully you had a good strong. Of course, I gotta ask you all how your strong was. PC Manaya, Ima Yakira Eden on radio, Ross Kush, Ima Sequoia, and Achoti Maria. Peace to everyone coming in. Yeah, so what we're building on is that concept, devils. That was like my main focus, like this whole strong, because of a piece of literature that I had been introduced to it through like popular culture. I never explored it, but that segment made me want to explore it. But we'll get into that. I like to do the chronological order thing. Just reviewing what we discussed this strong and what we covered this strong. Yes, Yakira Eden. Yakira Eden says, yes, the implying it's somewhere over there and not sitting right in the space. Exactly. Perhaps even you or me. Oh my. Yeah. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Yeah, so we'll get into that a little bit more. We'll get a little deeper into that. Because that was like that was like a poignant moment because it was like a cross section between a lot of the things that we had been discussing. So the first thing we did this strong was Clubhouse. Well, no, before that we did Anu Radio, and Akoti Mina had built on gold, are you golden? And then you had um, oh, peace, Sister Yaffe. Then you also had the Clubhouse that was I facilitated that one. And we had a good build on a couple of things, centering around family and how the family or the concept of family sort of was changed, um, co-opted, and sort of mangled a little, you know. But I wouldn't say mangled, but it's changed over time, and it's good to chronicle, the story arc of that change to see like what it was traditionally, or the various forms that it took traditionally, and then that changing into it basically morphed based on economic needs, the economic needs of the society, particularly Western society, where you had a lot of advances in industrialization. And as that was happening, the whole family dynamic changed, because most people were home, they were farmhands, they had extended families, everyone lived under one roof and had the homestead and they were managing it, but as everyone was leaving the home to work in factories, now there was like less people home to manage it. And you could actually bring in resources, monetary resources in other ways, like by going to work for someone else in the factory and bringing it home money so that you could go out and buy goods. So like the incentive to have a large family changed, and that just warped the nature of family structure as a whole, or what was promoted. It started to warp into the nuclear family, and then that changed based on other political movements. We won't get into that. I like anyone who hasn't tuned into that segment, and it sounds interesting. I encourage you to check the replay on our Clubhouse, our New Life Global Ministries on Clubhouse. You can check it out there. I think there's also a copy on here. Our New Life Global Ministries. There's a segment, same segment. It's called Bringing Down the House. And after that, we had our study session, which we're still digging into. Mainly the Greek Testament. And we're looking at different characters. It started with us examining the book of Romans, and then we started looking at the Apostle Paul, and now all the apostles under question, putting cases on all you suckers. But after that, we had our movie breakdown with the sisters, Sister Yaffe and Sister Morea and Ima Yakira Eden. They had broken down the movie, what's the name of the movie? Eyes Wide Shut, right? And again, you can see like deal with the devil, right? You're dealing with devils. You're dealing with people who work in the dark and are primarily focused on improving their situation in the material realm, but not necessarily their situation in a spiritual realm. But it's hard to say what they was doing at them parties too, besides, what we saw them doing. But the royal order of the hokey pokey was in full effect. And if you want your membership, you got to do the hokey pokey and take off all your clothes. That was the rule. After that, I really thought more about how this segment, because I thought I was on last strong. I thought I was on the schedule for last strong, but here it is now, a strong later, and like this topic is even more on my mind now. Just dealing with devils when you see them, or when you come across them, and that golden piece is important too. That Sister Yamina had brought up, aka Anu Radio. She had brought up with just the concept of gold, which we had focused on as a house. Typically we just focus on certain colors throughout the strong and seeing what kind of vibrations they bring. And gold was the color that's strong. And it sort of reminds me of the Ruach, that Chief had touched on this strong in the 69th episode of Chief Yuya podcast. And he was speaking about a couple of misconceptions that people may have about the Ruach HaKodesh, or as it's transliterated or translated into the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit, where you think it's just this invisible spirit that you can't see, but it does stuff. But we don't know what it does, but that's cool because it's a ghost, so you can't see it. You know, it's that sort of thing. And he really broke down, you know, the different aspects of it just by breaking down the Hebrew term, ruach. And you have that resh vav he, or resh vav chet. Sorry, resh vav chet. And you have that exalted mind, or that highest vibration of the mind. And then you have that nail, or that thing that binds things together in the Wav. And then you have the Chet, which was like, it helps with that unified theory, you know, or that unified field that binds things together, you know. And definitely recommend you check it out. I still got to go back and check it out too and take more notes, you know. So I'm not going to dwell on that too long, but I definitely say check it out, because I don't know, sometimes when Chief speaks, you think you're hearing it because like 1 or 2 points stick, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But he's talking for like an hour, and every word is important. So I definitely encourage you to, you know, comb through it, sit down with your notebook, play around with the Hebrew letters, like, share, and subscribe, all of that. But yeah, so what I was building on this strong in my personal studies was just the idea of the Faustian bargain, right? And the Faustian bargain is the term that it was coined after the literary work Faust, right? And there's a couple versions of it, you know. This was a work that came about in Germany around the 14th century, but around 1500s. And this was around the time where Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation was going on. You know, Martin Luther was still alive doing his thing, and the Protestant Reformation was still happening. So that's like the type of mind state that people were in Germany at the time. And it's actually based on a real person. I think his name was Johann Faust. He was an alchemist, but he also had like a reputation of being kind of a con man. So it also brings up episode 67, you know, Ish hits the fan. Like it's been a running theme throughout these 3 strongs, you know, where you're dealing with people who may not be moving with the most integrity, you know, or they make a deal with the devil because they want to deal with the devil, because they want to advance themselves without putting in the work or putting in the sacrifice. Or maybe they're like, well, I'll just sacrifice myself. And you see that motif happening a lot in media and even sometimes in real life, particularly surrounding music, you know, because the devil, I gotta keep doing that. The devil is reputed to, or has a reputation of dealing with music, you know, and particularly violins or stringed instruments, for some reason, you know, whether it's the harp or the violin or the guitar. But yeah, so Faust, Johann Faust, yeah, and then there was a track, I forgot what they call it, like a chapbook, I think that's what they call it. Like it's a book, and some people attribute it to an author. Other people say that the author is unknown. I'll just say the author is unknown to keep it simple. He did a book about Faust, you know, the life and like the tragedy of Faust. And then there was another person, I think his name was Morlo. I forget his first name, but Morlo, he did like a play about it, like a stage play. And then the version that I had followed or read up on was by, all right, take a deep breath so I don't mess up his German name. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I think he did good. Yeah, so Goethe wrote about Faust as well, but he wrote about it in like it came in like 5 different parts. We'll just focus on the first part because that's the part where the deal is struck. So there's a prologue to it too, so it's kind of like 6. But the first the prologue is basically like the Book of Job, the beginning of the Book of Job. You know, although Elohim are in heaven, surrounding the Most High, and they're exalting him and attending to him. And Christopher Marlowe, okay, give thanks on the radio. Yeah, Christopher Marlowe was the one who did the play. So yeah, they're in heaven doing all this stuff, and it's not like Shaitan or the adversary in this context. The name that's given to that spirit is Mephisto, right? Or if you, I think they have like a Romanized version that you may also hear, Mephistopheles. But Mephisto is easier, but Mephistopheles makes you feel sophisticated. You know, I might use them interchangeably. Mephisto is also like there's a character in Marvel based on Mephisto. He's basically a demon who moves around and plays tricks on people and tries to make Faustian bargains with them, right? If you're familiar with the Marvel character Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom, so it lets you know he's around that German area. Victor Von Doom, his mother was a witch, and she had some sort of deal with Mephisto, and he took her soul. So there's a whole drama with that. Victor Von Doom is like the primary antagonist to the Fantastic Four. You may be more familiar with them, but that was like a sidebar. So Mephisto is like, I hear everybody talking about how what you created was perfect, but I disagree, because I looking at your creation, I looking at mine, and they kind of dissatisfied with life, because you gave them this intellect, so now they got to go through life, serve you, but at the same time they're responsible for themselves, So I don't know if that was the best move. He was like, "Have you considered my servant Faust instead of Job?" Right? And he's like, "Yeah, I know, yeah." And he's like, "I'll make you a bet though. If he doesn't belong to you by the time he dies, then I get to keep his soul." And Mosiah's like, "I bet." So Mephisto leaves heaven. He's like, "You know what? I think I stay on good terms with the Most High. I like making these bargains." So there's him on his way down to earth now to cause trouble. Meanwhile, Faust is like a doctor and a scientist and an alchemist, pretty much like the person he's based on. And he's in his study with his teacher's assistant, Wagner, right? Or Wagner. And Faust is basically, he's kind of, the best way to describe it is bored. Like, he's like bored and miserable because he's like, I've gained all of this knowledge, but I don't have like any type of worldly experience. So he's sort of lamenting that, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing here. So he's like having a crisis, and Wagner's like, well, it's Easter, so I'm gonna head to church. And Faust is like, well, whatever. So Wagner leaves, and Faust, he's still feeling down, and then he looks over on his table and he sees like a vial of poison. And for a second, he contemplates suicide, but then he hears like church bells, and he's like, thank you, Jesus. Basically, he changes his mind. So they eventually go out, and a dog comes around, and he notices like there's sparks following behind this dog. This is Mephisto. So dog follows them home, and when he's talking, he is also studying, and he's doing like some magic, and he's studying alchemy and these symbols and everything. And as he's doing things, like you can see the dog is kind of intelligent, So he says something like to the Most High's merit, and the dog starts growling, like Chief was saying about these like that spirit. They don't like anything positive. They don't like anything uplifting. They only like suffering, and they only really initiate suffering. Like that's the. It's like Mr. Jones from Friday. That's my pleasure. The dog gets you. But yeah, so he has that and he growls, and then he does some different tricks, like some magic, and he's like making the dog shapeshift, basically using the dog like a guinea pig, making him shapeshift into different things. And then he was like, I think he sends the dog away, so the dog walks off, and then he comes back. But when he comes back, he starts shapeshifting into like a scholar. So they have a conversation about God and life and death and things like that. And the next day, the scholar, they're talking again, and he was like, listen, how about I make you a deal? Um, I'll serve you for the rest of your life. And after you die, you serve me in the underworld, you know, because Faust is still like, I don't have any satisfaction in my life. I don't have any type of gratification. I've never went out to fulfill my earthly desires. I've always stayed here and studied. And even though I have all this knowledge now, like, I'm just here sitting, So it's like, if you're dealing with your supreme mathematics, it's like someone who's stuck in knowledge and they don't move to wisdom. So now he's pining for wisdom because he hasn't experienced it. But rather than having the cojones to go out and do it for himself, he strikes a deal with Mephisto. And Mephisto's like, all right, cool. So we can make this deal. And he's like, so what do you want? He's like, well, if I could have, he basically describes contentment in the moment. Like, to say, I want a moment where it's like, I'm so content that I don't want the moment to leave. If I can experience something like that, then I would gladly serve you in the afterlife. I'd gladly follow you that way. Because I don't have nothing else to live for. He's like in a spot where I ain't got nothing to lose. So they strike up this deal, and he has to sign this contract in blood. Like he said, it has to be written, and you got to sign this in your blood. So he signs this contract, and he basically starts serving him, right? And I won't go through the whole story, but I wanted to lead up to this point because it goes back to Ima Yakira Eden's point that she had made earlier, and it also goes back to a point that Chief had made during the Devil's segment, right? So after they make this pact, Mephisto's like, all right, let's blow this joint. So they go out and they go to a bar, and everybody's having a good time. They drinking, girls around, they talking about, y'all have me pausing. I'm trying to keep it PG with family. We family, right? I'm trying to keep it PG. But yeah, they having fun amongst themselves. They're speaking vulgarly, and talking about sex and, if the Eagles or the Jets are going to win, that type of stuff, bar stuff. So Mephisto goes through and he's right at home. And he's chilling with them and he's talking with them. And he makes a joke to Faust. And he was like, people don't even realize when the devil is sitting right next to them. And it's like, when I heard that, because like, didn't Chief just say that? Because I listened to it after the segment. But that is like, that was like one of my main things that stuck with me. Like, people don't realize when the devil is sitting right next to them. Like, that stuck with me throughout the whole strong. And even the concept of like selling your soul. You like, can anyone put in the chat instances where you've heard, let's say, a legend, or because there are a lot of like urban legends going around where it's like musicians, especially, or movie stars, like, oh, this person is so successful because they sold their soul. You know, has anyone ever heard a rumor like that? I'll give you an example. The group Bone Thugs and Harmony was, you know, that was like one of the things that made them so popular because everyone was speculating, like, oh, they sold their soul. And there's like one of their albums, there was this thing that you shouldn't have read. Like, there was this writing. I never read it because I wasn't into that. You know, I like the fast rapping. You know, so I wasn't into the whole hold this thing up to the mirror because it's written backwards. So you hold it up in the mirror, it's written forward, and if you read it out loud, it's like a contract with the devil. It's like I'm good, you know. Why chance it? What do I get if it's wrong? Nothing. So okay, I see a couple of responses here. Ramik says James Brown. Okay, Anu Radio says Beyonce. Stiafe say yes, Serena Williams and Jennifer Hudson. Um, oh, okay. You heard that rumor too, Raskush. Yeah, man. So there are a lot of instances where people are like, "Oh, this person sold their soul, or they made a deal with the devil, and that's why they're so famous." You know. So I always thought that was kind of strange because on the one hand, how do you even how do you sell a soul? Like, what kind of bill of sale do you write up for that? Apparently, Fausto and Mephisto know. But yeah, what kind of bill of sale do you have? Can you sell a soul? You know, is it yours to sell? Um, Yakira Eden says there are. Oh, okay, Robert Johnson's story. Yeah, he sold the soul at the crossroads. Good. That was one of the examples that I had to Sovereign Eats. Yakira Eden says there are so many musicians, they say that about. Often you might even see how someone close to them is sacrificed. Exactly. Yeah, the list would be so long. Exactly. So this is like not a new, like it's not a new idea. The Faustian bargain. It happened before that. It was a concept before that book, and it was a concept afterwards. It was just like you got a term now because there was a whole story dedicated to that, you know, or several stories, and you have other like even shows where it's a similar thing. You have you have like the Little Mermaid. You know, she sold her soul for legs so she could go get some dingling. You have who else is it? You have Little Shop of Horrors, which we spoke about a couple of strong back. It was a similar thing. You know, he was giving his blood to this plant, and when he couldn't give enough of his blood, he started basically feeding other people to the plant. The Bow Wow is another one. Okay, we still going. Yeah, the list is still growing as we speak. Yeah, well, but there was another one. Wait, I tripped my phone. Okay. There's a couple more that I just saw like a video because I was like, what are some other ones? Because I know about some. There's some shows about it. You know, there's always that part where I think I mentioned it's like someone is like an anti-hero, and then like they're leaning between good and bad. Like maybe they used to be bad, and then they came over to the good side, and then they I don't know, they get an offer to turn back evil, and then, and then there's like, yeah, I'm gonna go over here because this was the thing I wanted in the first place, you know, and then they have their crisis. What have I done? But by then it's too late, you know. So it's a common theme. So a couple of other people I had on my list were as y'all keep dropping them, y'all keep dropping them. I see Lil Wayne, um, Raven Simone. She that was a bad deal. whatever whatever was in her contract, that was a bad deal. Like man. Um, Giuseppe Tartini was one, right? He was like a violinist. And this one stood out to me because this wasn't the first time I heard about the score that he wrote. It was also in an episode of Hunter x Hunter, who everybody should know that anime now because I keep talking about it. But yeah, in that show, one of the characters was like disfigured because she had like one of her friends played it, even though people said like that music score is cursed. One of her friends played it. They were drunk, and her friend burst into flames, and she only heard like the first movement of it, and she was horribly disfigured. So she spent a lot of her time. It's hunters hunt stuff. So she was hunting this piece so that she could destroy it and maybe even if possible reverse the condition. Um, can selling your soul be equivalent to succumbing to addictions? Um, when you say succumbing to addictions, is this like something that you may be fighting your way out of and you lost one bout, you got punched in the face, but you came back and you fought your way out of it? Or is this like saying, you know what, I'm just a heroin addict. That's what I do. I do meth. You know, it is what it is. You hold it, bro. You know, is it like that, or is it like the first situation where you're on your way out? Because there is like a redemptive aspect of that Faustian tale too. Um, Remember, it's like 5 parts. That's like the first quarter of the first part and the prologue. So there's more to it than just to deal with the devil. But that was what came to mind. Giuseppe um, Giuseppe Tartini he said that his situation happened where during a dream, while he was dreaming, he made a pact with the devil in order to become a better musician. So the devil, he gave the devil his violin, and he played a song, right? And it was so moving that when he woke up from the dream, he tried to recreate the song, and everybody was amazed by it. It was called the Violin Sonata in D, or it's also known as the Devil Sonata, right? And he tried to recreate it, but he can only get up to a certain level. You know what I mean? So it's like a master pianist or a master violinist came and he was like, he plays a song and he's like, okay, when you can play that, then you can consider yourself a master. And you have like this benchmark, to measure up against. But he's like, I could never do it in my lifetime. He's like, in fact, if I wasn't living off this violin, I'd probably quit playing music because he was just like, I'm not going to get it. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. It's you, rascals. Um, Another one was Nicolo Paganini, right? He's a very famous violinist. He was rumored to have been associated with the devil too, right? And like, why am I bringing this up, right? Well, he was associated to be, he was thought to be associated with the devil as well because of the way that he was already skinny and lanky and he played violin like no one else could. So everyone was like, yeah, he sold his soul. Like, it's not a new concept. When people see like certain singers or actors who are very famous or successful, they're like, oh, this person sold their soul. I think the difference might be now that although people might be like talented, um, you can get away with good, like mediocre talent and really good marketing and PR, and management and business acumen, like based on the team you have around you. You can get away with that. But these people are like, you're in a concert hall, and with Paganini, it was like, even if he had broken strings, he would still play in tune. So people were like the hype around him was like, yeah, he little touched. He touched by something dark. And someone had even like people would make the sign of the cross when he's playing. Someone had even said like they saw the devil assisting him when he was playing. Um, uh, yeah, so he was another one. But why am I bringing it up, right? So Matthew 12:22, right? If someone could put that in the chat, 12:22 verse 22 to 30. Right, so those are the verses. But I am going to read it to you. Okay, so Matthew 12:22. Them was brought unto him. We talk about Yahushua. So they brought this man possessed by a devil, right? And he was blind and dumb, and Yahushua healed him. And so much that the blind and dumb both spake and saw. And all the people were amazed and said, "Is not this the son of David?" But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils." And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of Yah is come unto you. Or else, how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house? He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. Okay, so there you see again, someone doing something amazing that I can't replicate. He has to be in league with the devil, right? And again, this the concept of the devil, as opposed to what that spirit actually looks like in practice and in motion, and where you can spot it, right? So, what is the devil, and what are some of the ways you can spot him? So I took some notes on that segment because I thought it was significant, since we just chill and build it, And I saw something in the chat earlier. I see you, Imanaya. Give thanks. Give thanks. Good looking out. You putting the verses in the chat. Sovereign Eat said something earlier. Okay, if the soul is our portion of the Most High, then maybe the idea of selling one's soul is that we choose earthly desire and accomplishments rather than embrace freedom. Embrace freedom in that choice. We negate the soul. ... question mark. Okay, I see where you're going with it. That actually brings up a point. I was listening to Pallades. I think that was yesterday. I was listening to it. It was following the study session where we were talking about the Hebraic zodiac system, right? And I was looking into it because there was a mention of that solar system, but there was also something the chief has said about being filled with light, right? Being filled with light, and also dealing with the serpent, right? The serpent is how it keeps us bound to the material. Like if all you can see is material, all you can see is matter, then you're full of darkness. But if your eye be single, you're full of light. Of course, your single eye is your first eye, and that brings back the concept of gold. Being golden or being full of light, and that was something that's something that you can consider as well. Sister Maria, my Bible is shaking thing. Can't find my mouse, but that's what I would say to that. Sister Sovereign Eats, you have a portion of your soul, true, but you refuse to tap into it because it's like Kether, it's not here, it's above, almost like the concept of the halo. So you can't even see that thing that's tethering you to the Most High because you're so stuck on material, your material existence or your material walk. Just like Faust, when he was he just wanted to experience the material side of things because he already had the mental side. But Like he even lamented to Wagner that like I have two souls in me. You know, one wants material desire and the other one longs for heavenly beauty or spiritual beauty. You know, so here it is now he's talking about the human condition where you have this animal side of you that wants to feel stuff and is longing for somatic experience, and it has to be tempered by this heavenly side or this divine side that is guiding you through, not even guiding you, you are the divine side, and you're guiding your more animal side through, well, you're both, but you're guiding your more divine side through this your more animal side through this earthly experience. You know, so it's almost like having a dog. I think of it as having a dog on a leash. You know, like there's certain things your dog wants to rush after, or especially me. I had a pit bull. That was my last dog. You know, so if you see a pit bull is pulling, you gotta look ahead and be like, what is this? What are you trying to get at before I get this leash and he slack? You know, what are you trying to get to? If I see it's like just a treat, it's like, all right, you try to do your business. But if I see like, my dog never did it, but let's say you have a baby in a stroller and you're walking up the street and you see someone with a pit bull and the pit bull looks interested in your baby, like you probably wouldn't trust the dog, you know, even though they love children, but you probably wouldn't trust the dog because you don't know that dog, you know. And it's sort of similar, like you have to really temper yourself because you have impulses and desires that are programmed into you, and it's up to you to like, you know, wire yourself correctly, which is, you know, a journey unto itself. Like Chief was saying, like is almost as difficult as trying to what was it? Trying to squeeze water. You know, it's like that difficult. Willfully helped that helped out. I think you were responding to Anu Radio Sovereign Eats. So I don't know. Let me know in the chat, or if you have a response. You know, because we chilling. I don't want to sing the song, but yeah, we chilling on the salad. Top tier speaker says, I thought it to be interesting that a distinction was made between being a devil and being possessed and acting devilish in the podcast. Yeah, because people, like Chief was saying, that people try to say that white people are devils, and you have some black people who act devilish, you know, um, which was like sometimes people do that a lot when there's a criticism levied, and you know that everyone, like, no one is above scrutiny, but because you're in a certain group, you try to hold that group that you're in above scrutiny, you know, or you may even confess that yes, there are some bad ones, but most of us are good. You know, you have fewer bad ones than you have good ones. You know what I mean? You know, but them over there, like you try to shift the spotlight to someone else. You know, them over there, your man's. But yeah, it happens sometimes. It happens a lot with women. It it happens a lot with men and women too. You know, especially with women though, with this feminist insanity that's going on, because it's gotten out of control now. Where you don't you don't even know what to call it anymore. It's like metastasizing. Well, it's probably like the trajectory it was always headed in. But now you have people who are like, um, men are trash. It's like, all right, but I just gave you like 6 examples. But those are those women. You know, you're dealing with the wrong women. Like you get that. You know, maybe you're talking to the wrong women. You know, what about you? Keeps tracking all these women to you. You know, so there's no accountability there. You know, keep the spotlight off me. It's probably your fault. You know, I don't think it's mine. It might be yours, might be someone else's, but don't look at me or my group. You know, we'll deal with everything in house. You know, we'll have a meeting. It's sort of like that. But yeah, talk to speakers. That was a good observation. Um, so yeah, how do we identify this? Right. So Chief gives us a couple of identifiers. I welcome anyone to put any of their stories in the chat. Let me know, like, we ever saying, like, you throw a rock into a pack of dogs. Um, if you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, one of them is going to holler, So let me know if you hear your story, and feel free to put your story in the chat and how you dealt with it. And maybe even how you would deal with it now. Now that you know better, now that you've maybe gone through this podcast, you've gone through all of this information that we build upon. How would you deal with this situation, right? How would you deal with a devil, a particular type of devil? Because he does say that you got to take some of these Elohims and these stories and these wars in heaven. You got to take them out of the sky, and you got to deal with them like when they're looking at you and lying to your face, like, hi, remember that thing we talked about the other day? Oh yeah, yeah, Lucy. I can't stand Lucy. You know what I mean? They just keep biting on some people till you join it. Um, One of the things was your point, in Mr. Coyle. Stop classifying people based on their color, because like there's also a temptation to um, vilify or defend someone based on their skin tone, based on which skin tone is closer to yours. You're getting warmer, you're getting a little too warm. Uncooperativeness and resistance, that's one way you would know. Like someone's just being uncooperative or resistant. I've experienced that with group projects. I always hated group projects in school. I hated them even more once I graduated because it's like y'all should know better, but they don't. Where there's always two people, but like it's always like this one polarity where there's gotta be tension and sparks flying and conflict. Like don't put them in the same room. You almost want to have separate meetings, but then that's even more confusion. There's always this tension where two people are at odds with each other, they're diametrically opposed, and nothing moves forward because anytime someone says one thing, if one of them agrees with it, the other one disagrees, and vice versa. So it's like this uncooperativeness, and it's like what Chief had said to us one time, like it's not about who's right, it's about what's right. And they just focus on the who, because the who is the personality, that's the temporal part, that's the part that's going to fade. The what is going to help everyone to grow on a deeper level, but the resistance that they have, and it's like, y'all need to get it together. One of y'all need to leave, or both of y'all need to leave, because I will waste my time sitting there listening to y'all bicker. But again, Chief has said that's another one of the tactics. They only seek to destroy. So again, like, let me know if I'm getting warmer. But I'll go down this line. We could get more into this Falsehood Bargain. The other thing is trying to poison you with their thinking. And this was coming off of the tail end of Chief's example of someone being resistant and uncooperative. Like I told you to do something one way, you did it your way, and then when I tell you you do it wrong, you come back and say, "Oh well, this is why I do it." I don't want to hear, like you said, I don't want to hear a wrong process. Are you trying to poison me with your thoughts? Which is what they do. Like the Eddie Murphy joke with him being so afraid of divorce and losing half his estate that he's going to go to Africa and find a woman in the bush and bring her back and keep her in the house. He can't let her around no American woman. They put a chip in her. Did you know you could take half his stuff? He didn't tell you could take half his stuff. Oh, he only told you half the story, girl. So there's that. You're trying to poison someone else's thought process. Here's another one. I met a few females who had told me that they only lost their virginity because it was like the thing to do. Like they couldn't wait to throw it away. Like they didn't consider it to be precious. It was almost like a stigma against not having had sex, which lets you know like how topsy-turvy everything is. So it was like I just did it with the first person who would do it with me because I wanted to get rid of it. And they call it their V God. One of them told me that it's a V God. You know, that she's trying to get rid of it. But yeah, it's something like that too. You know, you have someone telling you, go have sex, go have as much experience as you need to, because you don't know what you like. You know, you gotta go out there and figure out what you like. Once you figure out what you like, then what? You know, you know, like all this dumb stuff. Like once you figure out because what if you get married and you don't like what he does? You know, how do you know you like what he does? You go through a courtship, you get to know them better, you know, or do you think they're just gonna lie to you through the whole thing, and then their true colors are gonna come out once you're married? You know, because who does that? The next one is lack of adaptability. That's a part of that lack of adaptability as well. But I've seen that at work, you know, working with certain people where you would tell someone like, yo, we're not doing it this way anymore. The plan changed. And they just throw a hissy fit. It's like, bro, like things happen. You know, the plan changed. You know, we're not doing it this way no more. We're doing it this way, and it's still gonna work. But they don't know what they're doing. You know what? Them, when they them people in the office, they don't know what they're doing. Like every other second, they're switching up their thoughts. Like make up your mind. Like that's the thing. Like the people in charge need to make up their minds. You know, and that lets you know right there. Like they don't have a sense of adaptability or undertaking something and realizing that your initial plans may need to switch up because situation change. You know, just make up your mind. You know, because they're looking for a reason to go off. They're looking for a reason to spread negativity. Again, because they only know how to destroy. They don't know how to initiate something positive. Um, okay, we got one. Got one. All right. So Roscoe said, I would keep clear of them and disallow them to suffer alone. It's not my responsibility to try to change their minds or behavior through verbal articulation. They enjoy the back and forthness. Right. Right. So, would you give this advice to anyone? Like anyone you meet and they say, like they describe it to you and you're like, oh, that's the devil. You know, I would just keep clear of them because that's what I typically do. But after a certain period of time, you start looking at yourself like, am I making a Faustian bargain? Because I'm surrounded by devils. You know, so that's when the bargain keeps coming back up. Like I don't want to deal with no devils, but all I deal with is devils. So if I'm surrounded by devils, then what's going on with me? You know, so that's where the thought process leads me. You know, um, but yeah, I'll wait for your response. Um, Going to negative extremes. That was another one that I took note of. That happens a lot too with certain people I know, where it's like it's sort of similar like they don't know what they're doing. You know, it's like it's not that they don't know what they're doing. Like if they didn't know what they were doing, they may not have caught the the detail that told them they need to switch up their plans. You know, so they may know what they're doing. Now, if they switch their plan like 6 or 7 times, or even 3 or 4 times, it's like, okay, um, what's going on? You know, you can ask, you know, and try to adapt to the situation. What's going on? Oh, well, at first they didn't have the first shipment, so we had to order something else. Like, okay. Then the tire went flat. It's like, oh, wow, so that's the time delay. Okay. And it's like, then the driver got, um, you know, you got a call. He had to leave, so we had to bring in a different driver. Like, that might be what's going on behind closed doors in the office. Like, it's a series of situations that they're continually adapting to, you know. And they're not throwing their hands up in the air like, oh, just forget it. Do the order tomorrow. You know, they're trying to adapt to the situation and figure it out. You know, they're not going to extremes. But if I go to an extreme, then it gives me an excuse to cancel whatever I had going on. You know, like when I woke up this dawn, I'm supposed to go running, right? Because I messed up my running shoes at the retreat, and I got some different ones. So I was supposed to go running, and my alarm went off. I got up, turned it off, and laid back down. And it's like I almost went to the extreme. It's like, well, time to get up. So, drag myself out the house. I hadn't ran in a while, but I could have gone to the extreme, which I did a few nights before. So that'll let you know too that there are certain devilish things that we do, and it also lets you know that there's some devil in us, because of that bloodline. Because remember, all of these contracts were signed in blood. Like with the Crossroads piece, I'm freezing. Yeah. Like with Robert Johnson and Tommy Johnson, those were two who were said to like have been at the crossroads, and that's where they had their encounter with the devil, quote unquote. With Tommy Johnson, the story was he was at the crossroad at night playing his guitar, and a big black man walked up to him, took his guitar, tuned it, and he was playing like a genius ever since, and with Robert Johnson, he was reported to be terrible, one of the worst guitarists ever, and he left and came back, and all of a sudden he's playing like a different person. Some people like sound like two people playing, So it's sort of a thing where you sign with your blood, and that part with Mephisto saying, okay, we gotta write the contract, and you sign with your blood. It was like with Chief with the Pride and Bloodline segment. These devils are in your blood because your ancestors or your predecessors, they made these bargains. What kind of devils are they? Because there's more than one kind of devil. You know what I mean? And they're all, like Chief said, they're all deities. It's not like devils are down there and gods up there. It's, they're all deities and they all have their function. And if you take their function to a certain excess or abuse it, it it reflects poorly on you because you're the one with the power. It's a reason why they make a deal. It's talking about a deal with the devil, not a possession by the devil. Something just takes you over, right? Or they got to bind the strong man first. Chief had touched on this. I think the segment was called Deliverance. Yeah, I think it was Deliverance, and he had touched on the same thing. Like, what's the strong man? It's the spirit of the Most High that's within you. I have to get you to compromise before I can do anything with you. That was one of the issues that Mephisto had with one of the first women that Faust fell in love with. They were walking up the street, and Faust like fell in love with her instantly, and he wanted to like not love, but like, in the romantic sense, but it's like a lust type of thing. And he was like, I want that one. And he actually spoke to her, but she rejected him like she was supposed to, because you don't talk to me, you talk to my family. That was the 1500s. That's what was going on back then. And the issue that Mephisto had with her was she was incorruptible. Like, she stuck to her morals for the most part. Like, she had a couple of slip-ups, but for the most part, she stuck to her morals. It wasn't like an extreme reaction where she threw her hands up. Well, I'm this far in, so I might as well just keep it going. It wasn't that sort of thing. Raskush says self-examination would be necessary to determine why and how am I or others permitting devils to get close to my gates. Yeah, that's a good question. And you could look at the environment you live in, the culture that you live in, the country that you live in, which is surrounded by, and it's like Spaceballs. Like, who's this guy? He's an a-hole, sir. Who hired him? Well, his cousin, Captain A-hole. How many a-holes we got on this ship? Everybody raised their hands. I said, I'm surrounded by a-holes. Okay, so for example, maybe it's an unnecessary path that we're taking, um, that is in devil territory. That is that's very possible. You know, it happens all the time. Happens all the time. Chief has said it could be in your job, your career. Right, it could be in your job, career, extracurricular activity, mate, your friends, your family, parents. Chief would also give the examples of your education. You know, he given some examples from his time in the music industry. You know, being around certain people, and the he said that the danger of it is that you can accept certain negative things as being a part of the environment. Like you can accept certain behavior, like someone doing a lie, you know, right in front of you. It's like, oh, okay, that's what people do here, you know, and you just take it as acceptable. That's what people do here. But the longer you're in it, and the longer you're around it, and this person is like, you know, they always watching me do this. Like, you good? You want a bump? You know, and that's like where people start to see like, okay, maybe I can throw some of this stuff at you. But again, you could be like, what's that girl's name? It's the girl in Faust, the first one I told you about. I think sometimes she is referred to as Gretchen. So we'll say Gretchen. So you could be like her, where she's like, I'm not doing that. You know, that's not what I do. You know, that's not what our family does. But she had her corruptibility too, but she fought it off even through madness because you went mad at a certain point. Um, and she did some things too, but she had her redeemable qualities because she refused to go over to that side. She was striving to stand upright, you know, which is what we do in our new, because we all have like this is a hospital, right? So we all have our sickness, but it's the standing upright that allows you to start to see, like Chief had said, you start to see the forest for the trees, as opposed to saying the devil, you know, or black versus white. You start to look around, you can see the subtle differences between things, you know. Yeah, that Falsehood Bargain is it's an interesting story, but it not just that story. You know what I mean? It's an interesting concept. The idea that you make a contract as opposed to like a conscious contract, as opposed to the unconscious ones that we make, like Tartini. Like he made that in his dream. You know, you dreaming, you could say anything. You know, because he woke up and he was like he was trying to do it. So maybe even in the, maybe he's a lucid dreamer. You know, or maybe he wasn't dreaming. Maybe he's in a trance. I don't know what he's doing. You know, apparently his violin was very handy. But yeah, you could make these conscious contracts, or you can make an unconscious contract, or you can be carrying out an unconscious contract that one of your ancestors made, and it's still in your blood. It's still signed in your blood. You know, and Chief had said you want to clean your blood. You have to admit to what you have done. You be specific, and you renounce that thing. You know, I'm never going to do this again. You know, and that's how you know, not just I'm never gonna do it again. I don't even want it in my space. You know, I don't want you um, telling me the wrong thing or giving me a wrong process. Like Chief had said, I don't want that anywhere around me because I do things right. I do things the right way. You know, so yeah, man. Like that was something that was heavy on my mind. And again, dude, feel free to jump in the chat for more of your experiences. There's still this list to go down because there's plenty. You know, the fact that they never really have anything nice to say. You know, I avoid so many people not because I don't want to talk to them. You know, some of them like they seem cool, but you notice that anytime they try to initiate a conversation with you, it's always something negative, either about someone who's not present, which is gossiping, or about you, or even about themselves, but it's never uplifting, it's never positive. Another thing that Chief had touched on, which is similar to what's her face, Alice, and Eyes Wide Shut. Like she was like that. Like I never saw her had anything nice unless it was her daughter. She always had something derisive or condescending to say to her husband. Like she really didn't respect this dude, but she wanted. She was weird, and then he didn't. He didn't have that sense of direction either. You know, we don't know where they came from because we don't see their parents. You only see them as the parents. But you can also, like, you see, she came from the art world. He went to medical school as a doctor. So you can also see, like, who goes into the art world. Like, whose parents say, you know, you should go into art because art is always making money. Art is, like, volatile. But you should be a doctor. All right, someone probably told you to be a doctor. You know, you may have some good bedside manner. You may have chosen it for yourself, but it seems like you didn't have any sense of direction in the movie. Now here it is. You have this doctor thing that you're doing, and your wife is always going off doing things of her own volition. Like sometimes she's responding to the energy around her, but other times it's like she's looking for a way out. You know, I want to do this or I want to do that to get out of there because she wants to get as far away from you. Because she's already guilty that she wants to do stuff that messes with the marriage. You know, and here it is. You don't know what's going on around you because you don't have that direction. You know, you're just bouncing around like a ball on a pool table. You know, not a billiard ball. Overindulgence is another thing. Like, who can admit to that? Overindulgence. Um, I can raise my hand with that. You know, when it comes to having a devil, you know, or housing a devil, or having a deal with the devil. Like certain things that I like, I, I like a little too much. You know, like I ate some seaweed, courtesy of someone who will not be named. And the first time I ate it, like the first bite I took, there's like a little thin seaweed sheets. You know, they have in the grocery store. The first one I ate, it was like, this tastes kind of funny, you know, and then I ate half the pack. And then it's like, all right, let me stop. So they're like, okay, I'll send some to you. So they arrived here in the Bahamas, like, I got them on Monday. The whole case was done by Wednesday, you know. Well, Wednesday dawn and I ate the last pack. So I think it's like 24 of them. So that'll let you know, okay, overindulgence, gotcha. You know, and it may just be a somatic experience. Might have been the salt, you know, whatever it was like overindulgence. I could have made that last a month, but I couldn't stop eating. They just kept calling me. But yeah, you know that you have this issue, right? So how do you deal with it? You got to go through the whole renouncement thing. Even with our solstice, our vernal equinox fast coming up, it's a good chance to pause and reflect. 5-0. 5-0 in the chat. Yeah. Yeah, it was her. It was her. She did it. Yeah, they tasty out there speakers. I don't know why. I eat them like nobody's business. It's going on a style. But yeah, man, that overindulgence. Okay, cool. Sometimes I go overboard, not just with food, you know, but sometimes I go overboard. So how do I practice temperance? You know, how do I practice not doing too much and not doing too little? Um, you know, and I said I've done that with the wasabi flavored seaweed cheese. I understand. Yeah, cool. So like our devils are kind of, you know, patting each other on the back. It's okay. It's okay that you're addicted to seaweed. It's cool. You know, I'm addicted to stuff too. You know, we in the same boat, same group. Sometimes we good, sometimes we bad. But them over there, they addicted to Doritos. It's like the white and black thing all over again. Yeah, those Dorito munches. Yeah, look at them. But yeah, man, that's like the polarity of it. Because again, they go into extremes. So that lets you know you go into an extreme. Why are you going to an extreme? How much is enough? I don't know the answer to that question. Not concerned in seaweed. I don't know how much is enough. But yeah, that was one of my things. So overindulgence. Okay, gotcha. So don't overindulge. That's something to watch out for, but it doesn't mean it's the only devil that I made a deal with. How do I know I made a deal with them? Because I didn't shun them. And my whole body is supposed to be full of light, and they can't stand light. Then how are they in my body? you know, not just physical body, but how are they in my cipher? If my whole cipher is supposed to be filled with light, dealing with the knowledge again. You know what I mean? Knowledge is just, oh wow, oh yeah, yeah. They came for you on the radio. I tried to conceal your identity. It's like stone her. Yeah, man. But if I have a body that's full of light, then why is it that a devil can take shelter around me? Like that saying, don't tell me what they said about me, tell me why they're so comfortable telling you. It's like that sort of thing. Why are you surrounded by people who are not loyal to me? And if they're not loyal to me and you're loyal to me, then they're being disloyal to you, in a sense. Then, like, the whole thing, like, it warrants scrutiny now because there's something in the camp that is discordant. There's something in the midst that says, I dislike this one. I like you, but I dislike this one. Yeah, but I'm cool with this one. So the connecting part, the thing that's connecting me and this one, you're eventually going to attack to try to sever that bridge. Because you figure if I can sever that bond or that connection, I can ease this one out of the relationship. You'll lose a part of you, but it wasn't that important anyway. So they'll do that. I've seen parents do that with their children. It happened to me too. Like they say, don't do this thing that is connected to your purpose. Sometimes it's for their own good. They say they want to do stuff that doesn't make any sense. But the thing that doesn't make any sense is usually not from the Most High. I usually saw it on TV, you know. But some things they tell you don't do, and it's a part of your purpose. And it's like, how do I know? How would I know? How would I know if it's a part of my purpose or not? How do I know if I should go left or right? Right? And Chief touched this too. How do you know if you go left or right? Is the Most High down that street? Is the Most High on the left or the right? He's on the left. Go left. I not go right. You move where the Most High moves you. You move where that spirit is, where that light is. The closer you get to that light, the more you'll be filled with light. And the way, the truth, the light, right? Yeah, man. Yeah, Rami, they dropped a dime. Snitched on her. Cold blooded. Yeah, man. But that's what I wanted to build on tonight. It was really the Faustian thing that I wanted to touch on because I think it's fascinating. What comes out of the psyche of people, or what comes out of the collective consciousness of people when you're dealing with a phenomenon that's common to us all, like a deal with the devil, or selling your soul, you know, or even primal things like eating, or eating too much, or not eating at all because it comes from another thing. All jokes aside, I admit that temperance was not always my go-to when it comes to procrastination. I would also overindulge in mental overthinking, and some of that is doubt and vacillation between I guess, vacillation between choices. And I'll wait till you finish. Okay, vacillation between knowing that I am tethered to soul and my human self. Right. And that's exactly the issue that Faust was complaining about. You know, I have my human self, but I understand the beauty of the divine. You know, so it's like I got two souls. You know, what's going on? Because one of them is like, you see that chick over there? Yeah, it's sundress season. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, I know it's 1500s, but you see that thing jumping. You know? And the other one is like, listen, clearly this person needs direction because you see the way she's walking. She looks like she doesn't know where she's going. She might even be lost. You know, you should help that person, or you don't have time to look at the person right now. You got some people's lives to save. You know, or you they place themselves in one spouse. You know, so even if you're like if you have more than one um, woman, right? But if you pledge to be monogamous, then even if you have a second woman, you're now sinning against like I think it was called sinning against your conscience. It was spoken about in the Quran where you were told you should keep this thing. You may not have to keep this thing strictly, but if you devote yourself to keep this thing and you don't do that, then you're sinning against your own conscience. You know, so it's also like the pacts you make with yourself. You know, sometimes we breach those contracts in order to make other contracts, which are solely based on somatic stuff. Top tier speaker says, I think about the Anu way, and it is not being on you but in you, and how the right thing became a natural thing for those who apply. It also says, excuse me, it also says in the other way, it only takes like 1 to 2 years of applying these principles fastidiously. I just have to pause when I say fastidious. Fastidiously, in order to really see a change in your life or a shift in your life. That's true. I've seen a major shift in my life, and I haven't been all that fastidious. So imagine if you do it um, properly. If you do it with that conviction, it's like, okay, day in and day out, this is the way that I move, and it's becoming my natural sense. That's what you want to aim for when you're dealing with the unway. It's not like checking off a box every single day. It's like, okay, this is how I do this now. Chief has said when I was doing one of the fasts last year. You can look at it as a couple more days and I get to eat again, or you can look at it as this is the way that this is the way I live now. This is the way I'm moving now, and that thought helps. It really does. Like that's some based on application. That's some good guidance, and I'm saying that not because Chief gives bad guidance, but I'm saying that because I've actually tried it and it worked. It helped me. Now I gotta use that same thing, help me with this overindulgence. Because yeah, that was out of hand. The amount of seaweed that I ate in those 2 days. Got enough flashbacks. But yeah, that's the key piece. Um, I don't know, man. What can I say? Indulgences were all over, eyes wide shut. I'm trying to think of a scene where the only scenes where I saw that wasn't the case, and it still was when they were around their daughter, and they might be directly interacting with her. But even then, like overindulgence or indulgence were always, or desire was always creeping in the background. Like they go to the party. Why do they go to the party? They don't know anyone there. and not a part of the community, but maybe they want to be. Why do they want to be a part of this community? Because it'll help them with their social standing. Because they're living in an apartment in New York. Rent is a killer in New York. And his wife just lost her job. So, yeah, man. They indulged her in those members. I think you talk about the movie. Yeah, there's a lot of indulgence. A lot of indulgent members going on around there. Yeah, members everywhere. Members here, members there, members everywhere. Um, yeah, the physical indulgence was prevalent. The emotional indulgence, like you're indulging in your own fantasies, because they were doing the same thing basically. It's just that the wife is more internal and William is more external. Peace after, yeah, peace, peace, peace. How you doing? Yeah, man, it's after Howard in the space. On the radio says Bill indulging with Domino. Yeah, because he was like, "Hi, I got the money. Why not?" And she just walked up there and thinking, "Boy, it's like, you want to have some fun?" He's like, he always looked like, I don't know why they made him so clueless and naive. He was like, "You want to have some fun?" No, fun. What you mean fun? No. Uh, yeah, so she's like, "You want to have some fun?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." She just takes him to the house. What other movie came to mind? Aki El Karar did it. And it had a similar, like, I kept thinking about it when I was watching Eyes Wide Shut. That is The Devil's Advocate. It has like a very similar thread that it follows because it's also like a Faustian bargain, you know. But here it is. He's making a deal with his old man, but it's still the devil, Just nepotism, right? But yeah, it's a Faustian bargain. You're losing everything that's important to you to gain what you desire, because Mephisto worked for him, like for the rest of his life, and Faust died when he was like 100. They was riding together for a minute. You know what I mean? But every time he said, "Mephisto, I want you to do this," or like he made a wish. It was like making a wish with a jinn, because the way that he granted that wish or that request, it caused suffering, because devils only know how to initiate suffering. So I can only give you something if I make someone else suffer. Like that's how I operate. That's my MO. So if he says, "I want this girl," all right, you get the girl, but she's gonna have an abortion and go mad, and get sent to the gallows. Like, yeah, but she's yours. It's all yours, player. Or I want these people, like, I want this patch of land, I have this whole empire that I'm building. I have this whole city that I'm building with a bunch of people, and I basically have everything except for this one patch of land with this old couple. Like, all right, Mephisto, I want you to get them to move. Mephisto kills them. It's like, all right, want them out the way, they're out the way. So Faust gets what he asked for, but he doesn't get that satisfaction that he wants, because someone always winds up dying while he's asking for the thing that he says he wants. Sovereignty says indulgences were highlighted every time Alice saw a mirror. She's constantly staring at her reflection. She is self-absorbed. Yeah, yeah, it is. She's also super self-conscious, and she's also very insecure. You can see that in the beginning, where she's wearing one dress and then she takes it off and she goes to get another dress. She immediately goes to her husband, who she doesn't even like, for approval. How do I look? How do I look? So yeah, she's indecisive because she's not sure how she's gonna be perceived. So the second someone slithers on in, after they just jumped out of their coffin, and he just starts talking to her, she's like, "Oh wow, he wants me." That's all she cares about. He wants me. Like, dude, look past her. She's like, he could have wanted me. I'll never know, and it's all your fault, Bill. Yakira even says the movie was all about temptation of devils, but even the daughter was indulged shopping, staying up all night. Yeah, even the daughter is like, she's a shopaholic. She's gonna spend all of William's money, and she's gonna be doing the exact same thing her mother did for attention. Yeah. Eyes Wide Shut Part 2. Sovereign Each says indulgences are also prevalent every time we see symbols of Ishtar or Astarte. I consider how symbols trigger parts of our consciousness. Yeah, that's what the whole thing with advertising. The whole boom with the advertising agency around the 20s, around the time of the Industrial Revolution. And now you have all of this stuff being produced at such a fast rate that you're not selling based on utility anymore. It's not that you need this, you need this, you need it. Because we can produce it so easily, you actually have everything you need to live a comfortable life. But now the issue is, I'm not going to stop these factories because I got all these workers. All these workers pay for the city. The city, like they keep the city running. So if you get off the ride, the machine stops. And I can't have the machine stopping, so I got to keep you on the ride. So now you need this stuff for emotional enrichment or emotional fulfillment, as opposed to like you need this stuff because like I had to buy more running shoes because the soles of my shoes were talking. My shoes were like, so I had to get new shoes, as opposed to like I don't get no Jordans or Nike. My shoes cost $11. $11. Yeah, as opposed to spending $100 to run the same street. But yeah, they trigger parts of your consciousness. Even with product placement, like imagine how many people, like if you're like, raise your hand if you're a smoker or you used to be a smoker, and you would be chilling, minding your own business, you might be watching TV, like a commercial or a movie comes on, and as soon as someone lights up a cigarette and takes a draw and blows that smoke out, you immediately crave smoke. It's like, that looks so relaxing. Roll up. That's how it goes, that you get triggered. And because your emotions are so tied into the action or the symbol, like I gotta act it out. Unless you have that balance in that duality where the body is there, the mind is there, and you have that hand of Yah there too, you have the hand of Yah there guiding you and letting you know, all right, we need like the sound and silence or the power of silence, in order for the one to speak, the Most High, all three need to agree, body, mind, and spirit, right? All three of those need to agree in order for the Most High to speak. If you have your mind that's balanced, you always feeding your mind, and your spirit is out of whack, your body is kind of okay, then you need to fix that dynamic, But if your body is kind of okay, and your mind is working overtime, and your spirit is like devoid, your character is messed up, you may find yourself being overindulgent to compensate for your messed up spirit or your messed up character, as opposed to just stepping back, which is why we have Shabbat, which is why we have these fasts, to say, pause. Pause, do like the most High did before he created everything. You look at yourself, you see what you are, and then you can recreate yourself, right? Remember, in the beginning, you can recreate yourself, as many times as you need to in order to reform and become what you were meant to be, as opposed to walking around being triggered all the time and becoming what your environment says who you are, but you're always moving around as what you are. which is difficult if you're surrounded by devils, because they would tear down what you are, and they would love to see you become who you are, because who you are is based on your environment. Who you are is based on personality as opposed to character. You know, they love personality. You can't stand character because I can't do nothing with that. I can't corrupt that. You know, like Mephisto and Gretchen. I can't corrupt that. So I don't want that. You know, you send her to the gallows. You know, let's get out of here before we get caught. Sister Yafe says the orgies are symbolism of indulging in the carnal desires and the base wants. Right. She also said vices are things we indulge in. She said we need our vices, so I wondered if that meant we have to be able to resist them at times in order to grow. I can't remember the context of that statement. Help me out, Sister Yafe. On the radio says, I'll wait for the response. On the radio says, that's true, Sister Yafe. In the same way we need fear, in the same way we need ego, etc. I'm kind of following. And it's making sense, but I don't want to take it without the original context. No, I'm going to leave that alone. Huh. I'm going to leave that alone until you'll put the context in there. Because I want to go down the rabbit road, but I don't want to go down the rabbit road without a flashlight. Yeah, so those orgies, man. Those orgies. That's what kept Bill around. He was just walking around, getting the eyeful. He was told to leave twice, and he just wouldn't leave. He was told to drop it like 3-4 times. He wouldn't drop it, you know. And then when he gets in too deep, he's breaking down and crying in front of his wife, who already doesn't respect him, and she might be in on it. It's like, I don't know, man. And Kill Bill sirens play in his head anytime he thinks about his wife after that story she told him. Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a lot that we covered this strong. A lot. It's a lot to go back over. And sometimes we forget that we need to review. You know, sometimes we forget that it's important that we study instead of just gloss over stuff, or, okay, I listened to it. Check. I gotta work this camera better. Check. You know, I worked it. You know, I worked on that thing you told me to work on. Meanwhile, you just made a call and asked about it. You know, how deep can you go into these? I'm sorry, I thought I saw something. How deep can you go into these different channels that you're being sent down? You know, and really pull out the golden part. You know, the part of it that relates to Yah, and that leads you to Yah. Or are you just getting into it because of sensual indulgences or somatic experiences? You know what I mean? I am waiting for this context, and I am not seeing it. You know. Yeah, man. But I don't see any more movement in the chat either. So, by the way, some of you who are in the chat, you know, who weren't in the chat yesterday, did you see the movie? I'll give it a couple of minutes for that response. But if I don't see any more responses, I'm gonna head out because I'm talked out, you know. But even that part about a house being divided against itself. This is another point, you know. A house being divided against itself, not being able to stand. That also tells you what happens when you do have these devils in your midst, because again, they'll destroy. You know, they only know how to destroy. It's like inviting, like building a cabin in the woods and then inviting termites to stay with you. It's not going to end well because of their nature. It's because of what they are, you know, and they'll encourage who you are as long as it supports what they are. You know, as long as if you become what you are, then you won't support them because y'all ain't alike. Y'all ain't allies. You know. But yeah, that was another point that I wanted to touch on. But yeah, I don't see any responses. I don't see any stories. So I'm gonna head out. You know, no one speaks, as Aki Elgaral would say. Give thanks for everybody coming through. Like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. Of course, we have Aki Elgaral actually is coming back next strong. You know, for the movie breakdown. I don't know what he's breaking down though. You know, I'm looking forward to it. You know, we also have our new radio tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we have Clubhouse, and I think Ima Yakira Eden is speaking about the body. You know, which is I don't know. It's been a lot of synchronicity. You know, we've been syncing up with our thoughts and what we've been building on. You know, which is one of the benefits of being able to build amongst each other or build with one another. I think the intensified study sessions is helping to, you know, so give thanks for that. So yeah, on the radio, Clubhouse, study session, movie breakdowns. You will see the update if you're following us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you are not, and on YouTube, and if you're not, you know, definitely support the thing. Um, Follow, subscribe, like, share. You know, if you're getting some value from it, you know, definitely share with the people around you. Um, if you are watching this, you're new to the space, you know, first of all, welcome. And if you're finding like value in it and you're interested, you want to know more, there's tons of segments, like literally tons of segments on our various channels. You can also go to anulifeglobalministries.org and or anulifeglobal.org, excuse me, and there'll be a lot of things on there as well that you can learn more about, you know, what we do, who we are. Also signing up, getting a copy of the Anu Way is a good idea as well because it helps you to understand how we're moving at this point in time, this dispensation, and what kind of direction we're moving in. Because a lot of people have been, you know, reaching out and they're like, I've had these spells as well a couple of years ago. You know, like when I was first getting into listening, like I would listen to a segment or two, and then it would be like a couple of months, and then I listened to a couple more. You know, it wasn't until like I started like applying stuff. It's like, okay, that actually worked. What else can I use? And like that sparks it, you know, because it's not real until you can use it. It's almost like an example that Chief had given with popsicles. Yeah, popsicles, I know. But someone had said, you know, teaching the children how to make popsicles out of fruit, you know, or out of fruit juice. And he was like, those children won't care about it unless they make it themselves, you know, which is an excellent point. You know, that really like, it's like, he's absolutely goddamn right. You know, like, because it like when she makes these points, it like hits you. It takes you a minute. It's like, yeah. But yeah, man, it's all good. Again, give thanks for everybody coming through. I see the chat is moving a little bit too. Okay, Yafa, you can't remember the segment, but or the video, but he mentioned vices or addictions. Just how I asked, like it always comes up. Either you're gonna find it randomly, or someone here is gonna find it randomly. You know, we got all our antennas are going on. I'll give thanks to you all as well. You know, you guys enjoy. Okay, cool. So good thing I didn't sign off yet. Email Q says no more movie breakdowns for the time being. Thursday evenings will have a whole new vibe. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. You know, we always switching things up. You know, since I started listening, things would always switch up, but it's always an improvement. You know, it's a movement. So I was always learning and growing, alongside the people that make up the sum of its parts. Um, I don't. I'm gonna need a translator for that one. Okay, but given, oh, look, all right, give thanks, Sister Yafe. But yeah, looking forward to your segment tomorrow at 12 p.m. when you're eating, and at 9 a.m. for Sister Yamina, aka Anu Radio, Eastern Standard Time, all these times. But peace, 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 peace. Bye.